everybody, Vagran Gaming, and I got a request to talk about the utilities for Dirty Fighting and Virulence. So, my sniper is still set to Virulence, so I figured, why not? Load him up, take a look. Let's get him focused on his target, and we'll get right to it on these utilities. The first thing I took is Ballistic Dampeners. Entering cover grants 3 charges of Ballistic Dampeners. Each charge absorbs 30% of the damage dealt by an incoming attack. This effect cannot occur more than once every 1.5 seconds. Ballistic Dampeners can only be gained once every 6 seconds. So just a quick note on this utility is you're in cover, you're firing away. Every now and then, pick yourself up, plant yourself back down in cover, and refresh your Ballistic Dampeners. The longer those are up, the better off you are. And it's something that a lot of gunslingers and snipers forget about sometimes. Next is Imperial Demarcation. Reduces the cooldown of leg shot by 3 seconds. And what I take that one for is I like to try to root someone in the middle of the group. That way, when I hit my corrosive dart and my acid grenade, the dot from the acid grenade will spread. And then when I need to switch targets, all I'll need to do is hit my corrosive dart and I can get right back to doing damage. It's just a personal preference. Some people like to take vital regulators, which gives you a little bit of health every 3 seconds. It's not a ton of health, but it can add up if you can stay in cover for a long time in addition to some of the later utilities. When I'm doing Virulence, it just doesn't work out for me. I prefer the leg shot, but honestly, it's a playstyle preference. The biggest thing I definitely recommend is Ballistic Dampeners. The other one that's popular is Snapshot. And the reason why I don't use Snapshot is because the nature of using Virulence, when you have to apply your dots and prime everything up before you really set your damage in, and by the time your damage really gets rolling, the internal cooldown on Snapshot would have expired. So basically, it would be wasted most of the time. So just because of my preferences and the way I play, it just doesn't seem worth it. Now, if you're playing a sharpshooter, that's another story. Sharpshooter marksman, then that's a really important skill to have on. Anyway, next up we're going to go to Masterful, Reestablish Range. Countermeasures purges all movement impairing effects when activated and grants Reestablish Range, increasing your movement speed by 75% for 6 seconds. So it's handy if you want to cover distance, it gives you a nice speed boost, and it's also handy for if you get rooted. So you're trying to move into position, you're trying to get away, someone roots you, pop this, and you'll be able to get back on the move again with a nice speed boost. The other reason why I take it is, additionally, the final shot of series of shots and penetrating blasts knocks back the target if they are within 10 meters. And that, for me, is huge. I take advantage of that as often as possible. Especially since I do so much time in PvP, your natural enemies are melee. And you want to keep them away as long as possible, because that means you're doing damage while they're not. So, if you see them charging towards you, go for series of shots if it's at all possible, because by the time they get within 10 meters, hopefully that last shot is coming up, they get in range, and bam, they're immediately pushed back again, and it's super handy. The other one I take is Evacuate. Reduces the cooldown of Maim and Flashbang. So you just hit that last hit from series of shots, it pushes them away, they charge it again, hit your stun. And that'll give you some even more breathing room. If they break that, hit a flashbang and then just run for the hills. So you've got a lot of tools by using these as often as possible to be able to create distance. Because creating distance is key. You need to be able to keep your distance from melee to optimize your damage. And it doesn't hurt with your survivability either. Down to Heroic. Pillbox Sniper. Reduces the cooldown of Entrench by 15 seconds, which is really helpful, and Cover Pulse knocks targets back an additional 5 meters. So you want to keep people away, and this just puts them a little bit further away. In addition, having Entrench come off of cooldown more often is really handy, especially if you're in the middle of a heavy encounter in like a Void Star, or even if you're on a Civil War. Alderaan Civil War and you're on the node and there's just a lot of people really close to you. Like if you're not in the center node, which has the most places for you to hide, if you're on the west or eastern nodes, being able to push them even further back is obviously handy because you can knock them off the ledge of the platform of the node, but also being able to entrench when you've got people running all around you is really handy. Next we have Series of Snares. Each shot of series of shots and penetrating blasts slows the target by 20% for 3 seconds. This effect can stack up to 4 times. You're going to be using series of shots, so it's nice to have series of shots have a bit more synergy and also apply a slow, because again, creating distance makes it take longer for the melee guys to get up close to you. That said, your dots, which you should be applying to as many people as possible, also apply a slow. So depending on your playstyle, you might gain more benefit out of using augmented shields, which will increase the amount of damage that can be absorbed by your shield probe. And maybe something else will work for you. But these are the ones that work for me, and it's partially playstyle. Now we get to Legendary. And pretty much any build I've run of a Gunslinger, I've taken defensive safeguards. When Ballistic Shield is activated, you gain a charge of defensive safeguards for each enemy inside your Ballistic Shield, up to 4. This effect lasts 20 seconds, and each charge increases your damage reduction by 5%. So if you pop your shield off, if there's 4 people in there, that's a 20% damage reduction, which isn't bad, like not at all. And you'll probably see a lot of opportunities to use something like this if you're fighting on a door in a Void Star. Especially if someone's in the middle of trying to spam cap, you can just rush in, get close to there. It's best to do this if you have a healer around to be safe, and pop your shield, and you'll get a nice damage reduction. But if you look at that last section, it says, in addition, while inside your Ballistic Shield, you heal for 3% of your maximum health every second, and you are immune to being pulled or knocked back. So it's kind of like in Trench, only you can still be stunned. But you're getting that nice heal. So if you've got a healer backing you up, it's pretty easy for them to keep you up while this is going, because every second you've got that 3% rolling in and that damage reduction. The other thing I like to take here is Deploy Shields. Reduces all damage taken while in cover by 5% and reduces the cooldown of Ballistic Shield by 30 seconds. So I like this one a lot because I'm just getting a flat 5% damage reduction. And if you remember back with Ballistic Shields, you combine those two things together. I've got a damage reduction from being in cover. I've got the Ballistic Shield dampeners there. It's nice synergy. And then you just got to remember to pluck yourself out of cover and plant back down again every I guess 7 to 10 seconds to play it safe. And you'll have a decent defense sitting on top of you for the entire time. And also, the other thing is a quick note. These two talents, or these two utilities, work well together because this lowers the cooldown of this. Deployed Shields lowers the cooldown of defensive safeguards. Well, not defensive safeguards, but your Ballistic Shield. So you're able to use your Ballistic Shield more often, which means more healing, more damage reduction. So this build is based kind of like on giving you as much survivability as possible and trying to keep the uptime high for dealing damage and the uptime low for your opponents by being able to push them away constantly and stun them. That's the mentality behind this build. So just to go over the rotation real quick, just to have that included, pop into cover, get your Corrosive Dart, get your Acid Grenade, you prime it up with Weakening Blast, then we get target acquired, laze target, let them have Wolf Call, pop your takedown, go into series of shots. Now I went through that really slowly just to demonstrate everything, and obviously you can take a look over here in the caster box to see what all the abilities were, and feel free to rewind that. I demonstrated again right away, but target acquired, it's got a bit of a cooldown. But that's like your big fist in the face opener. Like that'll do as much damage as possible because your target acquired, it'll increase your accuracy but also your armor penetration. So it's really handy if you're dealing with some heavy armor like your Juggernauts, your Commandos, your Power Attacks, all that good stuff. Lace target will increase the critical hit chance of your ambush, explosive probe, or cull. And obviously we're all about cull, which has a very short cooldown. So that's like your big opener, and just to show the second half, I'm going to go through that again at a normal speed. We're going to prime everything up. We hit cull. We hit our execute, series of shots. And now we can go for a lethal shot and right back into cull. pop that execute, and then it's about time to reset your dots, because Weakening Blast should just about auto cooldown, and then now we're in that lather, rinse, repeat stage. So again, just to show it really quickly, we talked about Snapshot, yeah, about having a lethal shot activated instantly. I usually save it towards the end. So again, you put your dots on, get your Weakening Blast, hit Cull. After that, you hit your execute, you hit your series of shots. By the time you're up to using a lethal shot, that cooldown, it would have been gone. There's just no point. So, I don't get a ton of mileage out of lethal shot. I use it because it is nice to have the, you'll see the little yellow numbers pop up. But it doesn't do a ton of damage. I basically use it as filler while I'm waiting for the next Cull. Because Cull it's just a mean ability. I love the way it looks. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels. I love everything about Cull. So, that's just your basic rotation. And look at the utilities. And another quick tip is, I'm going to do my battle roll in a second. Now, normally, like, picture this Warzone training dummy as a melee. He's a big, bad, scary melee that wants to take your lunch money. So he runs up, you roll away, and this cloud, it applies a slow. So not only does it do a teeny bit of damage, but it slows them, which gives you more room to start opening fire on them. And then also, if you can picture it, if I rolled away and I started, say for example, I roll away and I hit Cull, by then they're going to start charging. That's when you go for your series of shots, and by the time they get close to you, hopefully they're within that 10-meter range, and it'll bounce them back a little bit. So that's just a quick look at what I usually use for Virulence and Dirty Fighting. Hope that helps you guys out. And don't forget, every now and then, pop in and out of cover. You want to keep those Ballistic Dampeners on as often as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope it helps. Hope it answers your questions. And I will catch you guys next time.